My name is Brian Wallace, and I was in Korea from October 1950 until November 1951. When I'd finished my initial training, I was sent on a clerical course in southern England, and then the Korean War came about, and the Brits decided to call in reservists to have sufficient troops to go to Korea. And they came in to do their retraining. I volunteered to go out to Korea. Well, when I first went out there, we were stationed in Daegu, and we were providing guard duty in various places where it was the ammunition dump, which was at the race course, and then we would do train guard to as far as the trains went, mainly for food. But the trains were made up of carriages for different units. There were so many different countries there. Of course, it was mainly American. And it was a long journey too, because you would be on the train. It would be a matter of, you'd probably be away from your unit maybe 3 to 5 days, maybe a week. And coming back was interesting because we would come back on an empty train. You would be given a wagon, told not to take anybody, but we would take a lot because we were bringing, the refugees used to cram onto the train, and that's how we got to know the Koreans. And found out they were just like we were.
Were you involved in any of the battles in the Korean War? Or
Fortunately, no major battles. There was more scouting. Well, I had no impression of Busan because we just got to Busan and straight to the railway station, onto the train, up to Daegu. So my first experience of Korea was in Daegu and the surrounding district, particularly when I was doing the train guard. Coming back, probably the greatest experience for well, I was still 18 then, for an 18-year-old was to have a lady on the train coming back, hanging on to my arm while she gave birth. And then to see her jump off the train a matter of a few hours later, carrying her baby in swaddling clothes. Now, we had some interesting times on those train journeys. You asked me earlier my impression of Korea. It was really of a lot of people dressed in quilted white clothing, and a lot of old men with tea strainer hats on. Plus, of course, I should mention something that I admired was the A-frame. One day we saw a little fella struggling down the street, and he had an engine block on an A-frame. Quite remarkable. One thing I did like in Korea was I went to a bullfight. Where I went back down to, we were stationed on the west side of Busan, a lovely setting. I learned to swim there too. And the village had, once a year, they had a bullfight. They had a bull come from another village, and they put the two bulls together, and they had a fight. And then finally one of them gave up, and it toddled off back to its village with its handler or owner. And I thought that was a sensible bullfight. Nobody really got hurt. Just one bull was a bit disappointed.
When you were going to the Australian-Korean Association, do you meet up with the other Australian veterans?
Yes, I did, but I didn't go there very often. I was a Canadian and I got on very well, but being in the British Army was slightly different than being in the Australian Army. I guess really the Australian Army was more like the British Army was in the First World War, where you had people, locals. So the guys who were in the army, they already knew each other. They came from villages or areas together, whereas by the time I joined the army, it was just a total mixture. Well, probably I only ever met them, really started to meet them when the consulate started putting on events. It's a bit difficult for somebody in my generation because I was born not long after the First World War, and I heard all the stories from the First World War. Then I was 7 years old when the Second World War started and 13 years old when it finished. So I have vivid memories of being bombed and such like in UK. So then when I joined the army, I went and found my own little war, which was not a very pleasant one. It is a bit annoying when people talk about war. They remember the Second World War, they remember Vietnam, but they forget the Korean War. And the fact that it was the first time that the United Nations actually did something.